You're listening to the Scars and Guitars podcast series that syndicates for the A-List Online. My name's Andrew Mackay-Smith, and the artist that I've got coming up for your listening pleasure. The interview subject is Danté Peluso. He's from Melbourne-based. Gosh, I'll at least get it right on the introduction there, given that I referred to him as a Perth-based artist through the conversation. But Danté is Melbourne through and through. His outfit is called IV Danté. The reason for the conversation is to talk up the two singles that he has in market. They're both new tracks for 2019. The first one is called Purple, but it actually goes by the name of Hash 800080, which is the colour code for purple, and Napping in Nightclubs, which I really like, by the way. And we do talk about why I like it through the conversation. So here he is, Danté Peluso. Hello, mate. It's Andy Mackay-Smith calling for our chat. How are you going?
Good, yourself?
Good, mate. What's the day held for you up to this point?
Been pretty much working all day. Just got out of my last guitar lesson like 15 seconds ago, so
Nice.
it's good timing.
Yeah. Is that what you do for a day job? You teach guitar?
I guess it's like just part-time stuff. So during the days, I work in an office, just at a building company, and then the Arvo is like 4 till 7. I teach like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays, teaching guitar, and then a couple of days a week I'm just in the office. So
Good on you. Okay, right. Yeah, you're just teaching kids or all types?
just all ages, yeah. So last lesson was I think she's 8 or 9, and then lesson before that I had a guy who's like in his 50s. So the ages kind of range from little kids to adults. So it's pretty cool. It's a good range.
Sweet. Is that one of those jobs that you selected, so to speak? In other words, it was an intended thing, or did you just sort of fall into it because you're a good guitarist?
I didn't really want to do teaching like initially. I kind of just got thrown into it because I was friends with the guys at music store, and one day they couldn't make one of the lessons. This is when they only really had like one student, so they were just starting off. And they couldn't make one of the lessons, and they just called me up and said, "Can you?" I think I was just in the shop or something, and they're like, "Oh yeah, by the way, you have to do this lesson." And so I just kind of got thrown into it, and then they're like, "Okay, you're the full-time teacher now." And I'm like, "Oh, all right."
Fair enough.
And then kind of went from there, and then lots of like 16 students over 3 days now, which is cool.
Cool.
So, yeah.
What's the one thing you keep telling students that you notice that all students keep doing?
Oh, not practicing enough.
Yeah, it's a big one, that one.
I think that's just the main thing, just playing guitar. And I think listening to music is the main thing. A lot of people don't seem to do as much. Like some students do, but I feel like a large majority, don't regularly listen to music, or it's just casually on the radio.
Wow, that's crazy. Yeah, you'd think that they'd be right into it.
Yeah, it's definitely different times, and I think the reasons why people learn guitar now might be slightly different to why people learn guitar, even I guess when I started learning like over 10 years ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's strange, but hopefully these kids can, I kind of show them some stuff, and I show them some of the older bands, and they get inspired by it all.
Exactly. I remember, what reasons do people give you for picking up the guitar these days? Because, when I was a kid, when I was learning guitar and bass, it was to be like, I'm a bassist, right? So it was to be like Billy Gould from Faith No More. Like, I had my icons. But, of course, rock music and heavy metal is basically an underground genre these days. I mean, the fans love it. The media hates it. So when you're talking kids sort of at the ages that you're mentoring, do they cite an example of what and who got them into playing the guitar, or is it just this looks interesting and it's a bit of a romantic ideal?
Oh, I would love to say that a lot of them have an inspiration, but I feel like a majority of them is, I don't know whether their parents wanted them to do it or it's just kind of seemed like a cool idea. But yeah, a lot of them just kind of thought it was something cool to do, I think. Because it's always the first question I ask when they come in, like, well, why do you want to learn guitar? And a lot of them just, I guess they're not really sure, there's nothing wrong with that. But it makes it a bit more trickier when they don't have a certain initial inspiration, stuff like that. But there are some kids, like I've got one, I think he's 6 or 7, and his family's from England, and so they're all into, like his parents are into the Rolling Stones and the Beatles and all that stuff. So and we've got like pictures of the Beatles on the walls at the shop in the music school here. So they kind of like recognize them, and which is pretty cool. So it's a good surprise, especially when little kids come in and they know a lot of the old stuff. But yeah, mostly I think it's just a cool thing to begin with.
Yeah, it's an interesting point, that one about the Beatles and these classic rock bands. I remember when I first learnt bass, knowing that I loved heavy metal, hard rock, whatever you wanted to call it back then, grunge, funk metal, the teacher actually said, yep, fair enough, but what we're actually going to teach you is all of these Beatles and Eagles songs. So I could, at the time, when I was 14 and 15, I could play half of the greatest hits of both the Beatles and the Eagles. And I've got to tell you, at the time I hated it, but as I've gotten older, the melodic influence in Paul McCartney's playing and whoever was playing bass for the Eagles, influenced me a lot.
Yeah, I think there's some of the greatest songs written, really. Like, there's just nothing like that. And I guess earlier when I started playing guitar, I think I kind of skipped over the Beatles a bit. Not because, I don't know, I don't really think there's a reason, but it was more, I was just into a bit more like punk rock or like even rockabilly stuff. And recently I got into the Beatles and been going through the back catalogue and finding some of the more obscure stuff and just really appreciating it's just songwriting at its core, like when they had all the 4-track recorders or stuff like that, and how they made like these iconic songs with like so little. And the Beatles are just one of the greats.
They pretty much wrote the book, didn't they, for all modern pop, whether it's rock, heavy metal, all modern music almost comes from, I get that it comes from the blues, so no disagreement from me about that. I understand that. But in terms of beating it into form and turning it into a 3-minute pop song, and then even taking it further, like what they did on Revolver and the White Album, their experimentation, the Beatles practically wrote the book, didn't they? I wouldn't even say the Stones did, even though I personally prefer the Stones. I'd say that having gone back and reviewed the history, studied it, there was nobody before the Beatles. There was nobody to copy. They just were influenced by these Delta Blues guys, as the Stones were too. But the Beatles you just feel like every time you listen to a Beatles song, you think you couldn't improve that. It's like every song they ever wrote is almost a perfect song unto itself.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. There's so many songs as well. I realised I didn't know the Beatles wrote because so many people covered
That's so
covered
true.
them. Just looking into the history and how they recorded things and realising, the Beatles wrote that, and like even stuff like Helter Skelter, almost like the first metal song, like arguably.
It's definitely case for it being the first metal song. I agree with you on that.
It's like a complete left field, I guess, from like the Beatles' early stuff, and it's scary how much influence they had on just music in general, and it's really, I guess, inspiring in a way how 4 guys could have that much that big of an impact on just music. So
it's weird, isn't it? It's weird when you think about it that they're the gateway for all modern music, but it is, to your point, it's 4 working class guys that met each other under fairly unassuming circumstances. Actually, was it Pete Best, the original drummer, died? Is that right?
Yeah, I believe. Oh, died.
Was it died? What was it? He was in the news recently. I should check that. But
did he? I don't. Oh, gee, I
his
don't know.
Or he died. It was one of the two. It was one of the two.
God.
I'm going to Google it because I don't like saying these things on the podcast unless I'm right. He was in the news recently. We know that. I'm just looking here at Google, mate. I can't see anything. Maybe he's still alive. I shouldn't say that he's dead.
Okay, hopefully he is.
He's definitely not dead, okay, because I've just checked
cool.
it now. So, but I noticed it coming through on Twitter feeds that they were talking about him. And I thought, what are they talking about? And it's usually with people like that they make some remark about his contribution to music because they've passed on, but it wasn't that. But you know what I'm talking about. He was in the news recently for something. But it's interesting that even somebody who had, all things considered, a very minor part in such a tremendous legacy is still a giant of the music industry, if you like. Someone like Pete Best. If you say Pete Best, I know everybody thinks of the Northern Ireland Manchester United football player, but really, as a musician, he's the one that I think about.
Yeah, I think, I guess it's always a story like the guy that left the Beatles or whatever happened there that they obviously became one of the biggest bands of all time. But for him to still have a name in the industry amongst musicians is a really cool thing. And just a small part that he played obviously still had a big impact. I think kind of everyone involved in the whole Beatles thing had some impact in the music industry.
Yeah, there was a really good movie that came out about 25 years ago called Backbeat, which was about Stuart Sutcliffe. You know, the famous Beatle who left. He didn't get kicked out, he left. And then I think he ended up doing something with John afterwards. I'm casting my memory back here.
Was he a bass player or?
I think he was the guitarist, rhythm guitarist, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, God, I'd have to check it. But the point being is he died like not long after that. But, I mean, he was big enough himself to even have a movie about him, effectively. I mean, he was the reason for the movie, so the point's proven again.
Yeah, that's actually crazy. They've had, not even, I guess, music, like, that much, like, they've had a huge influence on music, but not only that, but, like, film as well, like the recent film that came out yesterday. That movie, I thought that was a great film, and hopefully it's kind of brought back a lot of the Beatles stuff.
Yeah, no, you're on point.
More than modern day.
He was the original bass player, actually. I thought he was the guitarist, but there you go.
Okay.
So he was the original bassist, so you're on point with that one. Yeah, no, it's a fascinating story, and it's a story that will be told for generations about the Beatles, and that more and more people will come out of the woodwork as having something legitimately to contribute to that legacy too, I think. You know, not just your George Martins and your people that were in the spotlight at the time, but there's going to be people like, for example, when I was in Staten Island in New York, I was in the shop Mandolin Brothers where Paul gets his basses repaired. Okay, which Mandolin Brothers, and I can't remember, the story's evolved over the years, I can't remember whether the bass was just in, as in the famous Hofner bass, was just in the workshop for repairs, or whether it was, meaning it had been and gone, or whether it was still there. You know, this is the thing about New York. You know what New York's like. You walk around and you're in Guitar Center and you're talking to a fellow, and after half an hour he mentions casually that he used to be Billy Idol's bass player for all of those great albums, and you're like, and you're working
stuff like that.
Yeah, it happens in places like New York, doesn't it? You know, you're in one of the industry centers of industry, and these are the sort of things that happen. But yeah, I always remember that, being in Mandolin Brothers and buying a guitar, a Martin, and the owner, I can't remember his name now, God bless his soul, he's passed on, but he mentioned, just casually, he didn't mention to brag, but Vernon Reid was in the shop, I think, when I was in there, from Living Colour, and I'm a massive Living Colour fan, so of course I was terrified of talking to him. Yeah. I've ended up talking to him since for the podcast series, and we joked about that.
Oh, awesome. Yeah.
But even just, you know, being in the same building that Paul McCartney's bass used to be, or was potentially still in, was a real thrill, man. I got to tell you, you sort of feel like as though you're just closer to God a little bit. I can't, you know, you're a muso, you know what I mean? You do though. You sort of, it just leaves this indelible mark on you, and you're like, man, it's good to be alive.
For sure. For sure. There's just an aura about it, about just knowing that it's been there, or it might have been there while you were there. It's just, it's a cool story as well. Hopefully I can one day have some cool Beatles stories or something like that.
Oh, look,
down the track. But
I'm sure you will, and I'm sure you'll do it through your music. I think that's the difference. I've sort of, to be honest, man, I've given up trying to do my own stuff. I couldn't be bothered these days. Tried it for too long, and I was in Velveteen down in Sydney. I'm from the Gold Coast, but I was in Sydney and was in the band there. We did some stuff with Thirsty Merc and stuff, but nothing too big.
Nice, yeah.
Nothing that I'd ever brag about, that's for sure. But mate, you've got two really good releases here. I'm not just saying that. I like just about everything that I hear that Firestarter. I know they haven't had a hand in it. They're distributing everything, but it's just so true. Everything that I hear from Perth that comes out that I hear through Firestarter has been pretty good to excellent. Yours is on the excellent scale.
Thanks for that.
I really rate Napping in Nightclubs. I actually did a micro review of it where I said, I've done a little bit of that in my time.
Yeah.
That was me.
Yeah, cheers.
Yeah.
No, that was awesome.
Yeah, so it's really cool track, man. It's one of those songs that I give everything a chance. Okay, I've got to tell you, I listen to everything once. I get a lot of stuff sent to me, but I feel it's my duty to report what I like, and I just don't tweet out things about things that I don't like, because that's generally the filter that I've got. But napping in nightclubs, it's got this great, cool summer breeze vibe, which is ironic given that. And I'm going to probably stuff up the name of the other cut that I've got, which is hash 80080. Is that right?
Yeah. Well, I kind of did this to myself. The song's called Purple, but we called it the color code of purple. Because I don't know, I guess I thought I was being clever or something, but it was just before it got released, I was just looking at the artwork and stuff, and I can't remember where I got the idea from, but I thought, what would be cool if the song's called Purple, but I title it like the color code Purple. I knew it'd probably confuse a lot of people. It's just, I don't know, something that I just thought, you know what, I'm just going to roll with it and just see what happens.
Yeah, look, it's cool. It's a cool name, and and it means that whenever anybody asks you got a cool story to share with it, even if it's, might not be talking about Paul McCartney's bass, but it's still a cool story, and I think that's the thing, is making songs memorable, and there's a number of ways you can do that, and one of the ways you do it is like you've done, you give it an interesting title to talk about, but I think for people listening to the podcast episode, both of these cuts here, what I really like about them is that you've got acoustic drums, correct me if I'm wrong, but I can certainly hear real and acoustic drums on there. You've got real guitars, and it's no surprise to me that you are mentoring people on the guitar, because one of the things that I really liked about, I think it was Napping in Nightclubs, you've got a really nice guitar lead through that one. Or there's occasionally comes in. Yeah, that's really cool.
Cheers, yeah.
And you got proper singing. You got real singing. There's not the auto-tune thing going all the way through it, which is bloody, these days it's just so entrenched, and some of it works, but a lot of it doesn't. It's just to cover up the fact that people are shit singers. But in your case, you've actually got, there's a musicianship is what I'm saying, but it's done in a way, it's modern, it's urban, it isn't classic rock. And that's what I really appreciate about it, because I don't want to listen to classic rock anymore, and I'm sure a lot of people who are even my age in their 40s are in the same boat. You're giving people the elements of great songwriting, great arranging, but in a modern package. That's my take on things, but what do you have to say about it?
Oh, no, that's really kind of you to say.
No worries.
Yeah, I guess that kind of that sums it up. I've always just, I think first and foremost, been a fan of songs and just songwriting in general, and then and just based everything off that, and then added, I think then the next thing was kind of my guitar playing and like arrangements. So those, like especially Napping in Nightclubs I think the bridge has a bit of an instrumental rocky part in it, but I've always liked the idea of having like really musical parts within, I guess, a straightforward pop song. Like bands, I guess, like Toto.
Yeah, nice. Steve Lukather.
Prince. Yeah. And stuff like that. Prince and Toto in particular have like the songs that form almost the real just good, straightforward pop songs.
Yeah.
And heaps of them are massive hits. But then when you peel back the layers and you listen to it, they've got like real musicianship in them, and just each, like the drums, guitar, the singing, the bass playing, everything just super tight and on point and really musical, which is, I guess, the idea of what is how I try to present the songs that I write and that we put together as a band, is to have kind of all those elements into one. But yeah, hopefully it's comes across. I'm glad that you're liking that, so that's cool.
Yeah, it's cool music, man. You know, I'm really keen to hear what else you've got. So have you got an EP or an album in the mix coming up?
Yeah, so we've got, towards the end of this year, we've got EP coming out. So there's going to be another 2 songs off that EP.
Yeah.
We've got, so we're going to drop another single off it in the next couple months, and then when we drop the EP, there's going to be the final track. And I think these last 2 tracks, I think they're probably the strongest ones we've got so far. I feel like every song that we record and release is better than the last. And just, I think, yeah, they're just in, like, this as our songwriting kind of evolves and and musicianship gets a bit tighter with the songs, I feel just getting stronger and stronger. So these last 2 songs are probably 2 of my favorites, and especially to play them live, I think they go down really well. So keen to get these ones out there.
So it sounds like it's a band. Actually, I thought, because of how cohesive everything was, I thought it was you doing everything. But is that right? You got a band around you that help you record everything? Yeah.
So I think a lot of the earlier songs were pretty much all me playing it, and then I got Isaac and Clinton to come in, and I guess it's kind of, we've become essentially a bit of a band, and we're all do everything together pretty much. So Clinton records the bass, and then Isaac will put down the drums, and then I'm pretty much doing everything else on the track. So pretty much all the production, it's like 90% all us, and then we'll go record vocals and then get it mixed elsewhere and all that stuff. So it's kind of morphed into a bit of a band, especially when we play live. It's definitely a cool band vibe that we've got going on, and it's good fun.
It sounds it. It is good fun music, and that's the other thing I liked about it. It was upbeat. It still tells the story, but it's upbeat. It's not some of this depressing shit for depressing sake stuff that I'm hearing. Unfortunately, a lot of rock-based stuff and even some synth stuff I'm hearing that gets a bit like that. So be it. I guess everybody's got their own taste with things. But I think in order to get on radio, and let's face it, you want to be on radio, terrestrial radio is still a massive draw. It's still the easiest way outside of going viral on the internet for the right reasons for you to get your music broadcast to as many people as possible. So these songs have got real radio potential. So I really hope bloody Triple J, as notorious as they are for not supporting Australian artists who have guitars in their music these days, they just don't do it, and they're idiots for not doing so, in my view. But have you had airplay at least on Home and Hosed or something like that there?
No, we haven't been. Unfortunately, I haven't been played on Triple J yet or Unearthed, but hopefully...
Doesn't surprise me, mate, to be honest, but
I feel like...
Don't take it the wrong way either. It's just the way they do things.
Yeah, I kind of see where they're coming from, though. Like the napping nightclubs especially probably not suited to what they're going for, but then again, it's hard to say. Like they can push kind of anything, and they can make it popular, but... I think the next few tracks, that's the last one off his EP, I think is probably the best song for Triple J. It's the most kind of straightforward, like indie rock pop type song without any kind of fancy stuff, and a catchy chorus. So I think, we have a chance, but hopefully it's not the be all end all, and we're just going to keep doing what we're doing, and if Triple J want to play us, then that's cool. If they don't, that's cool as well. We'll do our own thing, and hopefully we get some international radio plays and stuff like that, and hopefully to go overseas, especially to Europe soon, and try to do some stuff over there, which would be cool.
Yeah, well, actually, I've had this conversation with many artists, Australian artists, particularly from Perth. But yeah, I get the Europe thing, but that's also hard. But that's also because it can be difficult. But where I see the great opportunity for Australian artists, particularly yourself, is in Asia. Okay, so China, right down.
Yeah, that's true. Massive
opportunity there, mate. So has there been talk of you going to Japan, Philippines, Indo, those sort of places?
No, not particularly. I think that's something we should actually look at. I know one of my guitar students, he's from China, and he said, I should go to China because his brother's he's a musician and he's got some connections over there. So I said, yeah, I probably should. That'd be a good idea. And if I can get like an in with some people there, that'd be cool. But, so yeah, maybe that's could be on the horizon, going to some countries in Asia instead of heading to Europe. But
yeah,
we'll see how it plans out, and we'll see how the next kind of 6-12 months kind of goes, and hopefully plan some international stuff soon.
Hey, just talking about the engineer that you worked with, I believe it was Sam Swain, who's done some stuff with Casey Chambers. So not an obvious choice, to be honest, but was he just the closest guy around you guys that knew what he was doing? Was that the reason for selecting Sam, or was there another story?
No, so Sam, I met Sam, probably like 4 or 5 years ago now, when he was an assistant engineer on another track I was doing with one of my old bands. And I guess we just kind of stayed in touch from there, from those few days I was in the studio. And I was seeing a bunch of stuff like he was putting up on his Facebook and who he's recording with, and like, this sounds kind of cool. Like, he's doing some good stuff, and his mixes and his production sounds really good. So I just got in touch with him. It was probably about a year ago now, and we just started chatting, seeing how things were going. And I said, would you be interested in maybe recording some songs with us and stuff like that? And so I sent him a couple of demos, and he was really digging it, even though I think it was pretty different to what, like, the stuff that he had previously been recording and the bands I think he was doing throughout last year. I think he's especially a couple of Triple J bands, like that type of vibe, I guess, he was really into. So we were definitely a different style for him, but he was fully on board to come record some stuff. So yeah, just contacted him and got talking, and pretty much got into it straight away, because I think he went overseas for a bit, and then as soon as he got back, we got into it in the new year, and we've done 3 songs with him now. I'm about to go do a 4th.
Cool.
Final one off the EP. So yeah, I think we all love working with Sam. He's a really cool guy, and just we have a laugh in the studio, and then I think he brings the best out of me, especially in with my vocals and things like that. So yeah.
That's fair enough. Look, I've spent some time in the studio, and the last thing you need is an engineer or even a producer in there making it a tense environment. I've never been in that position myself, but it does happen. People clash. There are personality clashes. Sometimes when producers start trying to write things on behalf of an artist or suggest changes, but forcefully, it can happen, especially if it's an engineer who really shouldn't have a say in that sort of stuff. But it's cool to hear, man, that you found somebody who sounds like as though they get what you're trying to achieve and either contributes or gets out of your way.
Yeah, for sure. I think I've had a couple of those experiences where you go in and then the outcome that you get is something kind of completely different. And yeah, it made me realize through those like experiences to kind of just stay true to what I like, the sound I've got in my head, and what I want to record and put out. So, and yeah, Sam definitely kind of gets that, and puts in his part, but doesn't or try to change the sound or whatever we've got. He'll try to get the best out of the mix or best out of each part or whatnot. So yeah, it's really cool.
Cool. Yeah. What about, okay, so you've got this EP coming out, or prospectively coming out, or no doubt it'll come out this year. And then no doubt you'll follow that up with some promo and then potentially even an album. But here's the question for you. Do you think music has career prospects for you?
Well, I hope so, because I guess this is kind of what I'm just going to do, really. I'd like to think it does have a prospect. I guess it's kind of really all I want to do, so I'm just going to try to make it happen, really. I'm in my final semester at uni, so once that kind of is out the way, I've kind of got a free rein and a bit more time to go headfirst into the music and hopefully get some more interstate shows happening to begin with, to follow the EP launch and stuff like that.
What are you studying at uni?
I'm studying commerce, so it's kind of not really related.
No, but it's smart. It's a smart move, mate. And I'll tell you why, because you're going to have that to fall back onto. And no doubt your parents have said that to you too, somewhere along the line. But it is. I'm back at uni, mate. I'm in my 40s. I'm studying journalism. And look, the thing about getting a tertiary education is it opens doors for you. Okay, and those doors, after you finish, and you've got one semester to go, so you'll do it, they'll always be there for you, so you can basically park it and then come back to it in your late 20s or 30s.
Yeah, that's for sure. I think that's the initial reason why I went to uni to do something like that, just because a lot of people, even friends in the music industry, that were saying, like, it's not a bad idea to go do, get a degree in something that's not related to music. And I guess straight out of year 12, high school year, it's a bit daunting. You're not really sure what to do. And so, yeah, I just kind of went with it. And uni is what it is, but I'm glad that it's only like 7 weeks to go. So kind of I'm home straight.
Yeah, you are indeed. Yeah, you are indeed. Now, mate, with your music, if people want to reach out to you, if they want to have a conversation with you, and if they want to purchase your music, how can they do that?
So you can check us out on pretty much all streaming services, all social media, at Dante, or spelled IV Dante, DAIVDANTE. On Instagram, Facebook, Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube. I think I've got them all, something like that. And yeah, have a listen. The songs, chuck me a message on Instagram or whatever. I'm happy to have a chat. And let me know if you like the song. If you don't, let me know. Either way,
I think they will.
I'm open to feedback, and hopefully, we'll see everyone at an upcoming show.
It's very humble of you, mate. But you know, you're an excellent musician. I can hear that, and you're a bloody good songwriter. You know, I mean, that's the thing about your music. Yeah, I mean, look, I don't say these things unless I mean them. And yourself and Matt Camerano over there in Perth, mate, I'd love to see a collaboration eventually between you two. Oh,
cool. We're actually from Melbourne.
Oh, you're from Melbourne, eh? Sorry, I thought you were from Perth. God.
No, that's all right. Because, if I started to do the stuff from Perth, but no, that's all right.
Yeah, my bad. Sorry, I didn't.
No, that's all right. I've actually never been to Perth, but would love to go play.
I said about 2 or 3 things about Perth, and you're like, yeah, that's nice. Yeah, great, no worries.
Yeah, I was thinking that, but I just kind of slipped over my head. But no, that's all good. Yeah,
Melbourne's the music capital of Australia. Let's face it. You know, I mean, there's a lot.
Supposedly.
Oh, look, I think I mean, Melbourne's changing. We know that, but like the situation with the music thing, I think is on any night of the week in Melbourne, you can go and see a band. And you can't say that about any other. Brisbane, you can kind of say it. Sydney, you definitely cannot say that, which is crazy, given it's, the epicentre of where everybody thinks Australia is outside of Australia. But no, with Melbourne, it's a fertile ground, I think. But there's a lot of competition out there. I get that too. For you might end up playing some Monday and Tuesday night sets, but you just use them as learning experiences. Really.
Yeah, that's very true.
The last thing you want to do is be thrown into the deep end in front of 80 people with gear that you're not familiar with and players you've only just met sort of 2 weeks beforehand on a Saturday night at an important gig where it's a payday for you. That's the last thing you want to blood. I've been there, believe me, and you don't ever want to do that. If you start out, through some of those, I don't know, I couldn't even name a gig. Whenever I go to Melbourne, I always make a point of going to that rock and roll, that in ACDC Lane. What's it called? Cherry Bar, is it?
Oh, Cherry Bar. That's actually a really good venue to play. We played there only once, but that was a cool gig. I think we played there on Wednesday night, which is super random, but there's actually a really good turnout there for a Wednesday night. So,
and I've had plenty of big nights in Cherry Bar too. I used to work for Telstra, and we used to go down there, and I used to bring customers into there, and
nice.
We'd have a few beers and play pool, and it was always a pretty good time, mate. But that's what I like Melbourne. It is a cultural centre, if you like, because we like football and fishing up here. It's pretty much what it's about. I know there's the valley and stuff, but Melbourne, you really feel it.
Yeah, you really feel the weather as well.
It sucks.
It's terrible. Like Sunday morning was like not a cloud in the sky, it was sunny, and then the Arvo, like 1 o'clock, it just started pouring down with rain, and you just think, what happened?
The hell's going on? Yeah. No, you can definitely have the weather. I'll take our Queensland weather any day, mate. You might get too hot through summer, but our winters we don't have winters, as you know. We just...
Yeah, I know. That's it's been getting real cold here recently, so...
Yeah, it does, yeah. Mate, it's been a fantastic chat. What I'll do from here is, I'll just link you in on Facebook and Instagram, and Twitter and stuff. I'll just, at... IV Dante or whatever. I know that's not your handle, and I think you go by your name, don't you? Danté Peluso.
On Twitter, yeah.
Yeah.
On Twitter, I do, yeah.
But put it this way, I'll make it really obvious that I've posted it, mate, and I just put it up unedited, to be honest with you, because people love long-form conversations. So,
for sure. No, I definitely am a big fan of podcasts, so...
Sweet. We know all about it then. Yeah, it can be confronting for people if they're not used to it, because there's no formal introduction or conclusion, but... Mate, as far as I'm concerned, you'd rather just hear two people having a conversation about something like what the worthy subject matter of your music, in this case, I think I hear too many podcasts where there's a lot of bullshit that go on with them and people they tune out. Putting all this music on there that isn't related to the subject matter and like elevator music, they put that in for like 30 seconds before there's an intro and it's like, what are you doing? But, to each their own, I suppose. Whatever.
Yeah, sure. But, no, it was good fun. Thanks for the chat. It was really cool.
No, thanks, mate. I appreciate it. Keep on making the music you're doing, man. I'm a fan. Big fan.
For sure.
Keep on doing it, yeah.
And, hopefully we'll see you in Perth. Oh, no, we're up in... Now I'm getting confused. Up in Brisbane. When we come up and play some shows, I'll get you to come down.
I'll be looking out for it. Yeah, I'm like you on Facebook and on Twitter, as you know. So, mate, I'll be looking out for it. Fingers crossed.
Perfect. All right, thanks for that again.
Thanks, brother. No worries. Talk to you soon.
Ciao.
Cheers. Bye. You've been listening to the Scars and Guitars podcast series that syndicates for the A-List Online, and my name is Andrew Mackay-Smith. That interview subject there was an outstanding young musician from Melbourne, his name, Danté Peluso. Thanks so much for listening.